Well, now to Stephen Glaister from the regulator, the person who's basically there to keep Jim in check. Please welcome to the stage Stephen Glaister.
It's over 3.5 years since the Highways England replaced the Highways Agency as a government-owned company. And at that time, the Office of Rail and Road, which I chair, took on our monitoring responsibilities. So we're now moving towards the end of the first 5-year road investment strategy, RIS1. And as people have been saying, we're all engaged in thinking about the second road investment strategy. So this is a good moment to take stock about how things have gone. The objectives of the highways reform were, firstly and foremostly, to create a 5-year plan. A plan which hadn't existed before, and it will be stable over 5 years. Changes can only be made with due process and not on the whim of a minister, as had been the case before. That in itself would facilitate efficiency in delivery. There will be greater transparency to Parliament and to the general public. And there will be greater attention to the needs of users. The Independent Office of Rail and Road acquired powers and duties in relation to judging cost efficiency, transparency, and user needs. We monitor and make reports to ministers. Simultaneously, our sister organisation, Transport Focus, took on the role of researching what users want. And as Anthony Smith has just been telling you, they've done a really splendid job in pushing that subject forward. Broadly, I would judge that the reform has been a considerable success. Crucially, the budget for RIS1 has fended off raids in a way it probably would not have done under the previous regime. And in last week's budget, the government announced increased funding for RIS2. That's some kind of an indication of confidence in the new system on the part of the Treasury. And I think that it's fair to say that the ORR is developing a sensible and proper working relationship with Highways England. Our role basically has two parts. We monitor the performance now, understanding and reporting whether Highways England is delivering the current road investment strategy with the required performance and efficiency. And secondly, understanding what might be achievable in the next road investment strategies. So we look at future performance, what efficiencies might be available in the next road period. And we advise whether plans strike the right balance between being achievable and providing a level of challenge to Highways England. In carrying out these roles, it's vital that we report publicly. We publish an annual assessment of how the company is performing. We publish reports informing the next road investment strategy, for example, our annual benchmarking report. Highways England has done well in meeting its targets for the current road period. We can see that the performance specification here focuses on things that matter to customers, particularly as traffic on the network continues to grow. And by the way, will continue to grow in the future, in spite of the things that Sir John Armitt mentioned in his opening remarks. Highways England has met its targets for keeping traffic flowing. Network condition measure is above its 95% target, and it's been delivering safety improvements. Although on that measure, it still has further to go, and I know that's a topic that Highways England take very seriously, as we do. Highways England is also making real steps to improve its capital delivery. For example, establishing a portfolio management office, and that will continue to mature. That's not to say that everything's perfect by any means. You'll see this is not all green. Some of the improvements that we intend road reform to bring about will take time to deliver. But I think all of us should be very proud of this table. We can argue about the measures in here, but if I were making this speech 4 years ago, I don't think any of us could have put this detail up. We couldn't have explained to the public and to Parliament what was going on in anything like this kind of detail. So we're all working on RIS2. These are some of the points that the ORR are looking for in delivering that. Highways England is starting to take a long-term view. It's thinking about its portfolio of investment and making sure that it is planning it. And that 5-year programme gives stakeholders much clearer sight of what's going on. Road users understand what investments are being made in the network and where there might be long-term roadworks taking place. Highways England is clear about what it's being asked to deliver, and it can plan for that, and as can the supply chain. We're already seeing that the emerging plans for RIS2 are built on stronger evidence and on a better understanding of road user priorities than was the case with RIS1. As Anthony Smith remarked, RIS1 was put together in a hurry. Plans for improvement to the road network might be better developed. They will be better developed so there's a clearer understanding of the costs and the scheduling involved to deliver it. We will assure ourselves that Highways England has built its plans based on a good understanding of asset need, plans which reflect Highways England's need to maintain and renew its assets efficiently and effectively as possible. It's important that Highways England's performance continues to be judged on a balanced set of metrics, with targets which continue to reflect road user and stakeholder priorities. These targets and metrics need to be appropriately focused, and that's a topic for current discussion. It's absolutely crucial that government continues to commit to these 5-year investment periods. It was not at all straightforward to secure that in relation to the railways for the periodic review PR18 determination that we published last week. The roads industry should not take it for granted. I've talked about our priorities for RIS2, but what is that ORR actually doing? The draft RIS published last week gives the first view of what government wants Highways England to deliver over the period 2020 to 2025. We now know the funding available, but not yet the detail. Next, Highways England will produce its draft strategic business plan, which will contain more detail. That will be sometime, I guess, in the new year. We will assess this as part of our efficiency review, using the best available evidence. Informed by our efficiency review, the department will produce its final RIS in 2019, and Highways England will then produce its final strategic business plan, and then get on with delivering it. The efficiency review is a crucial part of our work. We will do it in 4 areas. We have carried out a set of capability reviews jointly with Highways England. This looked at their capability in terms of managing its assets, its procurement capability, its portfolio and management, program management. We know the company can continue to improve in those areas, and that will lead to better, more efficient delivery in the next road period. Secondly, we're benchmarking Highways England's costs and its practices, for example, how it manages its roadworks. Our work is giving indications of where there might be opportunities for Highways England to improve performance and efficiency. Thirdly, we're looking in detail at performance in the current road period and using that to inform RIS2. We know what efficiencies are being successfully delivered now, and we're developing our understanding of the trajectory for efficiency improvement. And finally, and most importantly, we started working with Highways England to understand its emerging plans. Highways England is best placed to understand its costs and to understand the efficiencies it might realise. So it's for Highways England to put forward its own robust plan, supported by clear evidence. In conclusion, I've mentioned it several times, but I wanted to reiterate how important it is that the new road structure is allowed to mature and that the government sticks to the fixed funding periods, the 5-year periods, to allow Highways England to run the roads network in a way that best suit the requirements of its users. At the moment, the evidence suggests that we're on the right track. Thank you.
How confident are you that Highways England has got its costs under control? Are you talking about seeing more evidence in reports? It's 1.2 billion, I think, savings that they're looking at making. So how confident are you they are going to get those costs under control?
Well, the only way we can address that is through looking at the evidence which I set out, the various ways we collect evidence about what it's reasonable to expect in terms of costs. One of the targets, and it was on that sheet of several key performance indicators, was set out in RIS1, which was deliver a particular level of cost efficiency over the period, over the first 5-year period. That slide shows partial delivery so far of that. There's a way to go before we know the outcome over the whole period. We'll report at the end of that to what extent Highways England did or did not meet its target. But I think whether or not the delivery at the moment is perfect, we have really good evidence of the extent to which they have achieved a target, and it's not a bad story.
How much of the railway learning are you bringing to this? And I don't mean that in a good way. I've covered the rail industry and the roads industry, and the rail industry has a habit of overrunning on projects, of over-promising, of pushing projects into the next 5-year period. All of that, you've regulated the railway for a long time. How much of that learning are you bringing to roads, or are they different entities?
Our regulatory regime is slightly different. But in spite of those differences, we recognise what you say, that there are a lot of lessons. We've taken a fair amount of trouble within the ORR to make sure there's cross-fertilisation and there is learning. So, for instance, in both industries, there's a big issue about achieving efficiency in the supply chain through understanding where the shortages might arise and levelling the profile over the 5-year period. We've had a meeting with the industry and with Highways England to discuss that in relation to RIS1. So we negotiated some smoothing of the profile over RIS1 using the learning we put together on that matter from the railways. But there are a lot of lessons to be taken across, particularly about project delivery, which has not been an entirely successful story in the railways, that's for sure.